De Milos Forman, on connaît surtout ses films américains. Amadeus, Vol au-dessus d'un nid de coucou, Air, Ragtime, Larry Flint ou Man on the Moon. On en oublierait presque qu'avant cette consécration hollywoodienne, Milos Forman a déjà vécu dans les années 60 en Tchécoslovaquie une première vie de cinéma au cours de laquelle il a réalisé des films libres et décomplexés en plein cœur du régime communiste. Les films s'intitulent L'As de pique, Les amours d'une blonde, Au feu les pompiers, auxquels on peut ajouter Taking Off, son tout premier film américain réalisé à la fin des années 60. Des films plutôt méconnus, à redécouvrir aujourd'hui, en partant à la rencontre de Milos Forman en Amérique. Et pour commencer, le contexte historique. Depuis la fin de la Seconde Guerre mondiale, la Tchécoslovaquie fait partie des démocraties populaires du bloc de l'Est et vit donc à l'ombre de l'URSS de Staline. Tout le pays est sous le contrôle d'un parti communiste hégémonique. La Tchécoslovaquie vit dans un régime totalitaire. La vie culturelle est elle aussi sous contrôle. L'heure est à la propagande du réalisme socialiste. Romans, pièces de théâtre, films doivent dorénavant prôner des valeurs dites positives, exaltant l'idéal socialiste cher au parti. Se pose alors la question, comment, dans ce contexte, Milos Forman va-t-il réussir à imposer des films libres ? Nous voici dans le Connecticut, à 2 heures de route de New York, dans un village peuplé de quelques centaines d'habitants. Mais nous ne sommes pas encore tout à fait arrivés chez Milos Forman. Il faut s'engouffrer un peu plus dans la nature pour découvrir, en bordure d'un lac gelé, cette maison où s'est installé Milos Forman depuis la fin des années 70. Une maison comme un havre de paix, éloignée des bruits du monde et préservée des effets du temps. Et voici Milos Forman, prêt, ou presque, à nous raconter ses débuts à Prague, en commençant par le commencement, les tout premiers souvenirs de cinéma.
Does it work now? Okay. The films which made the greatest impression on me was Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Laurel and Hardy, Harold Lloyd, all these, American silent comedies. But they also, some French movies, René Clair, Duvier, René Clément, right after the war. That was a wonderful period. But then, of course, in 1948, when communists took over, all this decadent Western culture, all these French, American movies were, not playing. They were forbidden, to be shown. And but we get a lot of, this Soviet movies, the socialist realism movies. That was like a shock, because the difference between these films I saw from the free world and this, politically correct socialist realism film, it was such a difference, I couldn't understand, why these films are so stupid, so boring. The communist ideology dictated filmmakers to make films about the life as it will be in communist society. So the new human being, working hard for the benefit of mankind and, you know, fighting for the ideas of the communism and destroying everybody who, you know, you are either with us or you are against us. So these were the main cliches which were so repulsive. And that was the time when I started to think about, you know, making movies myself. And the provocation was not to follow the great movies, but reaction to this stupidity, absolute stupidity of this, you know, propaganda type of communist movies.
Les premiers pas de Milos Forman dans le cinéma se font à l'école de la FAMU, où il entre en 1950 en section scénario. Une école qui représente alors un îlot de liberté en plein cœur du régime communiste.
You really don't learn technically much, you know, about screenwriting. But these 4 years at the school were very important because it gave you inspiration, it provoked you. We got the best professors, the best teachers, the most inspiring personalities in the Czech culture. So we were like 20, 30 new screenwriters, directors, cameramen, you know, standing behind the gates of Barrandov studio trying to get in. Now, when Khrushchev, in one famous speech denouncing Stalin, said we must give more opportunity to young people. So the communists in Czechoslovakia, okay, opened the door to Barrandov a little bit, and suddenly we started like 30 new filmmakers. So it was more difficult for the authorities to, you know, control everything and everybody. I finished the school and I bought my own 16mm camera. This is my last money. I bought 16mm camera, and I offered my friends who were running a small musical theater in Prague, Semaphore, I will make a whole movie about you so that when you will be old you can see yourself how beautiful and funny you were when you were young. And they said yes. So I started this concourse as an amateur film. And then one day, you know, I just took this and brought it to the studio and said, look what I shot this, and would you allow me to finish it professionally? And they said yes.
L'audition, donc, premier film officiel de Milos Forman. Dès ce premier coup d'essai, Milos Forman impose une mise en scène radicalement différente des films traditionnels tchèques. La caméra, portée à l'épaule, tremble, vibre, le montage est saccadé et les visages sont décentrés. Une certaine modernité est déjà en marche, et pour la première fois dans le cinéma de Milos Forman, une jeune fille prend sa guitare et chante. Il y a eu fin 50, la nouvelle vague en France, il y a eu le free cinéma en Angleterre, il y a maintenant, en ce début d'année 60, une nouvelle vague en Tchécoslovaquie. Car le mouvement est collectif et prend rapidement de l'ampleur grâce à des films qui s'éloignent du réalisme socialiste. Éclairage intime d'Ivan Passer, Les Petites Marguerites de Vera Kitilova, La Fête et les Invités de Jan Nemec, ou le film collectif Les Petites Perles au fond de l'eau. Et puis, pour en revenir à Milos Forman, L'As de pique, son premier long métrage. Un jeune Tchèque travaille comme vigile dans un magasin, mais à son travail de surveillance, le personnage préfère plutôt les chemins de traverse, c'est-à-dire aller au café, écouter les amis jouer de la guitare, draguer les filles aux cheveux courts et aller au bal pour danser le twist.
láska ještě plaká, když se tak s zarděním o všem možném plachá. On má rád motory a ona sport hory, určitě tež trpnou kantory, na to pak se nejraději vzpomíná. Nej, spíš si pak koupí ložitkyně, jak hrabě Monte Cristo a ta vévodkyně. Ona je doslova jak Jana Brejková, Jean Marais se mužnějc nechová, na to pak se nejraději vzpomíná.
Avec l'as de pique, Milos Forman devient donc le chef de file de la nouvelle vague tchèque. Il devient par la même occasion la cible des censeurs du Parti communiste.
When finally they saw the film, it was a very stormy session where the ideological watchdogs said, well, this is no, our young people are not like that. Our young people are building socialism. They are not this kind of a misfits. Our young people, this is, distorting the image of our new, beautiful society and like that. And thanks God, again, there was some political storm up there in the Politburo of Communist Party. And so finally they allowed the film to be in the theaters. I never considered my films politic. I never had a desire to purposely make the films politic, but I was aware that if you are telling the truth in the film, you are political anyway, because truth about human life is always political in some way. So I was aware of that. But for me, the most important thing was not the ideology or the politics, but not to be boring, to tell the story without being boring. That's all I wanted.
To, co bylo včera, není každý den a já potkal jsem dívku, byla krásná jako sen a já ji tak rád mám. Oh, yeah. A já ji tak rád mám. Oh, yeah. A z té velké lásky stal se ze mě chuligán.
1965, Les Amours d'une blonde, deuxième long métrage de Milos Forman, et l'émancipation de la jeunesse tchèque continue. Une jeune femme s'ennuie à son travail, elle rêve d'un ailleurs, elle va au bal, rencontre un prince charmant, se dénude dans le noir, puis en pleine lumière, et finalement elle déchante et revient à son point de départ. Bref, toujours pas un film pour plaire aux autorités tchèques.
Well, I don't think that it made them happy, but they didn't dare to ban films officially, So they just didn't pay too much attention to the film and let it go and like that. So also, we shot the film in the country like 100 kilometers away from Prague, so there was nobody ever. And it was for very little money. That film cost, peanuts. I was using people, like, for example, the main girl, right? The star of the film. Well, she's the sister of my first wife. The father in the film. He's the uncle of my cameraman, one of the 3 soldiers. He was my dentist, So it was all done like, in a small family. Non-professional actor, amateur, he is audience shy, but he's not at all camera shy. He doesn't even know what is that box there, He is, the crew behind the camera, he's shy about that. Professional actor is the other way around. He's not at all audience shy. As a matter of fact, most of the actors work also in the theater where they love the audience and their reaction. So if the people behind the camera laugh, they are happy. But they are camera shy professional actors because they know that this cold glass eye looking at them will decide their future, So that's the only difference you have to sort of balance a little bit. Like, for example, there are scenes between three people, reservists. Two of them are non-professional. One of them was a very, very professional and great Czech actor, you know. And it worked wonders, because this professional actor used to do all his shticks, you know, and all his mannerisms and like that. Suddenly in the company with this totally real guys who were doing nothing theatrical, who were just talking and behaving like normal human beings, that made him more humble, and that made him to, you know, somehow control his mannerisms and looked more like a real person like this too. On the other hand, the non-professional actors, they are wonderful if they are themselves and can do it, but they don't feel the rhythm. You know, in the film, things has to go a little bit, you know, in certain rhythm. The professional actor, together with these two non-professional guys, he gave that rhythm to the scene. He was pushing forward, and that was what brought a very nice result.
Když pastvina zní širou dálí, jipi, jipi je, tu ozvěna mi zpívá, jipi, jipi je. Když v údolí se mlhy válí, jipi, jipi je, to se chlapci zas vrací domů zpět.
Nous sommes au milieu des années 60 et l'ascension de Milos Forman semble irrésistible. Cinéaste à succès en Tchécoslovaquie, Forman commence également à intéresser les investisseurs étrangers, à commencer par Carlo Ponti, le célèbre producteur de la Strada et Dr Zhivago.
It was funny, as much as communists, you know, scorned the decadent West, right? They admired anybody who had success in the West from the communist society, you know. So they loved, also they needed money. So they loved to send our films to the festivals where they had a chance to be bought for, you know, hard currency. Love of a Blonde was a big success in Czechoslovakia and was sold practically all over the world. So Carlo Ponti said, oh, I want his next film, I will invest in his next film. So, you know, he, all right, you know, that's great, because I thought I'm being clever. Because, you know, now I can shoot really whatever I want, because if the Czech censors will not like it, well, Carlo Ponti will take it and, you know, it's his film, he will show it in the West, and, you know, the film will live as I want it.
Le prochain film de Milos Forman va donc être financé par les studios Barrandov et par Carlo Ponti, qui avance la somme de $55 000. Encore faut-il écrire un scénario.
We were together with Ivan Passer and Jara Papovšek, my friends with whom I you know, wrote the screenplays. We had an idea, but because to work in Prague became very, it was impossible, because Prague is too distracting, you know. Each one of us had his own private life, you know, which kept us busy here and there. So we decided, listen, we have to leave Prague and go somewhere, just three of us, and write a screenplay. So we went to this little town in the mountains, Vrchlabí. And we worked on this idea I had, and the work didn't go well. And one day, we said, okay, listen, let's relax. There is a real fireman's ball in the town. Let's go and have a fun on fireman's ball. So we went there. Since the next day, we couldn't stop talking about anything else but what we saw during the fireman's ball. So we started to write a screenplay for Fireman's Ball. There in this little town, there, you know, every evening we played cards and drank beer with the local firemen, so I knew them all, you know. And slowly we finished the screenplay and prepared the film right there, so we shot the film right there.
Au feu les pompiers, donc. Troisième long métrage de Milos Forman. Une caserne organise un bal. Les lots d'une tombola disparaissent les uns après les autres. Les jeunes filles refusent de participer au concours de beauté. Et une maison brûle sans que personne ne s'en aperçoive. Les personnages principaux sont des pompiers incapables, fatigués, malades pour certains, métaphore à peine voilée du bureau politique du Parti communiste.
In this film we were very much aware that political satire is there. It was not in the script. You know, we didn't dare to write it in the script, you know, but I knew that, you know, what I'm going to shoot, when I will shoot, and then we will show it to them, you know. No, we were very much aware, and rightly, you know, we were careful not to write it in the script because the reaction of the official, you know, watchdogs was vicious, you know. As a matter of fact, the film was banned officially forever. It was a funny situation then. When the party didn't like certain things in the film and didn't want the film to be released, they didn't dare to ban it officially. What they did is that they arranged a screening in some small town, in a theater, with local people coming in, you know, and they planted their own people among the audience. They showed the film, and then the ideologue comes on the stage and says, "Okay, comrades, so what do you think about the film?" And immediately, you know, the planted people raise their hands. "Oh, we think this is not describing our beautiful communist reality well enough. I think it's, you know, distorting the truth about us, and you know, I don't think this film is good." Well, and then the official said, "Well, listen, you know, we would love to release it, but the audience doesn't want it." So then they banned it. And they did the same thing with Fireman's Ball. When the film was finished, they hated the film for ideological reasons, you know. So they decided, "Oh, well, we'll show this film in that little town where they shot the film, with the local people playing firemen and being the extras, because when these people will see how this film is making fun of them, oh, they will kill the film." So they took the film to screen it in Vrhlapi, that little town I shot the film. I was advised not to even go there for my own safety, that the people will not beat me up, you know. So I was not there, but I was told what happened. They showed the film. The film ended. The guy comes on the stage. "So, comrades, what do you think about the film?" And immediately the planted man, "I think this is awful. I think this is, you know, our firemen, these heroic men who are fighting for our lives, you know, in killing fires and like that. And this is just disgusting film. And it's not true. We are not like that." And suddenly one of the firemen who was in the film raised a hand and said, "What are you talking about, comrade? What are you saying? It's not true. Listen, Loisa, do you remember how we couldn't get the car out because, you know, the driver was drunk and we couldn't get to the shack and it burned down, you know, and everybody was laughing at us?" And the whole theater started to applaud. And so they finished the discussion, but they banned the film anyway. When the film was finished and the storm from the official Czech, you know, censorship already was raging, so Carlo Ponti arrived to see the film to Prague, and I said, "Okay, he will save it, right?" He was sitting there with 2 or 3 people. I was there and 2 other people. The film finished, ended. Carlo Ponti got up, without saying a word, left. The next day, I learned that he's asking for his money back. he had the same reason as the communists. Carlo Ponti said, this film is against little man, and little man will not go and pay money to see this film. So this film can't make any money, and I have a right to refuse it, take it back, and give me back my money, which was a big problem, because the Ministry of Finance wouldn't give any money, anybody back, the hard currency, you know. So I got a letter, official letter, from the Barandov studio, that they are giving this to the court, that I will be sued for sabotaging socialist economy, for which it was 10 years in prison in those times. Well, I panicked, but fortunately I could go to the festival in Annecy, and I met there Jean-Pierre Assam. Jean-Pierre arranged showing the film to François Truffaut and Claude Berry. They saw the film and they said, we'll buy it. So they bought it from Ponti, they paid Ponti, Ponti was happy, and I was off the hook. So really, Claude and François saved my career.
Au feu les pompiers est donc distribué dans le monde entier, mais le film reste interdit dans les pays du bloc de l'Est. Pourtant, en ce début d'année 68, la Tchécoslovaquie s'apprête à vivre son printemps. En janvier, Alexander Dubček est nommé premier secrétaire du Parti communiste et porte rapidement en lui les espoirs de liberté de la population tchèque. Il remplace les anciens staliniens de son gouvernement par des socialistes plus libéraux. On parle de rénovation, de socialisme à visage humain, et les rues de Prague ressemblent de plus en plus à un film de Milos Forman. Et signe du réchauffement des relations entre l'Est et l'Ouest, les autorités tchèques accordent à Milos Forman le droit de partir en Amérique afin d'y réaliser un film pour la Paramount. Le cinéaste va donc découvrir un pays et une ville qui vivent eux aussi un certain printemps.
I went first to see New York and think about what to do, you know. I saw Hair, the musical. I wanted to do Hair already then because I was fascinated by hippies. Because for a young person living in communist society where you are being told what you can do, what you can't do, what you can say, what you can't say, suddenly you see these young people being so free, you know, have the hairdo as they wanted, saying whatever they wanted, being dressed as they wanted. It was just wonderful. But the rights for hair were so complicated, forget it. So I asked Jean-Claude Carrière to come to New York, which he was so kind and did, and let's go around and see. I would like to make a film about hippies.
Jean-Claude Carrière, donc. L'écrivain et scénariste habite lui aussi un havre de paix, mais en plein cœur du 9e arrondissement de Paris. Et il a gardé de cette période new-yorkaise des souvenirs et quelques photos.
Je me trouve au Mexique en février 68, quand je reçois soudain un coup de téléphone de Milos qui me dit « Je suis à New York, j'ai un projet avec Claude Berry, j'aimerais travailler avec toi. On your way back, sur le retour de Mexico à Paris, est-ce que tu pourrais pas t'arrêter à New York que je ne connaissais pas ?» Je lui ai dit oui, ça ne se refuse pas évidemment. Donc je suis arrivé à New York vers la fin mars 68, hôtel Chelsea bien entendu, nous avions chacun une chambre, et c'était la grande époque de l'explosion de ce qu'on appelait les hippies, c'est-à-dire ce mouvement de peace and love avant la lettre, sur lequel nous avions envie de faire un film. On a commencé à travailler à l'hôtel Chelsea en nous inspirant de tous les gens qui étaient autour de nous et qui étaient tous plus jeunes. Nous avions déjà 35 ans, Milos et moi. La génération des hippies avait 15 ans de moins. Ils allaient vraiment assez loin, à la fois dans l'usage du sexe, disons, la pratique du sexe et des drogues. Là, ils sont allés plus loin. Moi, je suis allé dans des parties certains soirs où vous arriviez, on vous ouvrait la porte et on vous mettait une pilule dans la bouche avant même que vous rentriez, vous preniez un verre d'eau et sinon vous n'entrez pas. Donc si on voulait participer, il fallait prendre, sans savoir même ce que c'était. On était quand même un peu cinglés. Alors on tombait sur des gens à demi-nus, entourés de chaînes, enfin tout ce qu'on peut imaginer de plus extravagant.
I remember you well in the Chelsea Hotel. You were talking so brave and so sweet.
Chelsea Hotel is the world by itself. You know, it's amazing. It was absolutely unique because the owner of the Chelsea Hotel, Peter Stanley Bart, you know, he was like this Medici. He was like a patron of the arts, and he would allow you to do anything in his hotel. You know, you could, for example, right above me in the room was a man living with an alligator, snakes, and a monkey. You know, it was fine. You know, but then in April, suddenly, you know, Martin Luther King is assassinated. Riots in Watts. Television, every day you see the most incredible things happening right there, and we couldn't concentrate on working on our little tiny, you know, story. So Jean-Claude said, listen, let's leave New York, we can't work here, let's go to Paris. So we went to Paris in May. We started to work in May, boom, revolution in Paris started in May. So Jean-Claude was on the barricade, so, you know, all day long I was sitting waiting for him in the hotel room. Again, we couldn't work. So finally I said, listen, forget about it. Let's go to Prague. Prague, Dubček era, everything is beautiful, people are happy. So we went to Prague.
Mais à Prague, la situation a changé depuis l'exil de Milos Forman. Dubček et ses désirs d'émancipation inquiètent de plus en plus l'URSS de Brejnev, qui ne veut pas entendre parler d'une rénovation en Tchécoslovaquie. Les tentatives de conciliation se multiplient, mais en vain. Finalement, l'URSS décide de réprimer l'élan de liberté de la jeunesse tchèque par la force. Dans la nuit du 20 au 21 août 1968, 6 000 chars et 700 000 soldats envahissent la Tchécoslovaquie. C'est la fin du printemps de Prague.
Every foreigner was telling us, be careful, the Russians are coming. No one Czech believed it. We didn't believe at all that Brezhnev could be so stupidly arrogant to do it. Because all what Dubček wanted was to reform communism, and suddenly, for the first time since '48, the communists had a support of the whole people. Everybody supported Dubček, the reforms, you know. I was in Paris in that moment when it happened. We left Prague like 3 days before with Jean-Claude. So nobody believed it. It was a shock.
Dans les jours qui suivent l'invasion soviétique, les débats houleux s'engagent, mais rien n'y fait. Toutes les réformes sont gelées. La jeunesse tchèque, celle qu'a tant filmé Milos Forman, va bientôt disparaître dans le silence, et pour longtemps.
The very strict, you know, ideological control, you know, descended upon all the facets of human life in the country without anybody believing it. Because in the 50s, there was still a certain segment of population of communists who really believed that they are doing something good, that they are really, you know, building a new society, better society. It was not a huge, you know, segment of population, but it was. These people didn't exist anymore. And it was some kind of a quiet, unspoken agreement between the government and the people. You don't meddle in politics, you don't disturb us, and we will not disturb you. You can work, you can go and see the football matches and drink your beer. We will leave you alone, but don't dare to provoke us. And that was the life. I am basically a coward, so I didn't dare to go and return to Prague and bring my family out. But Claude Berry and Jean-Pierre Rassam offered to go there. And because Claude Berry's car was broken, so he borrowed a car from François Truffaut, and they went to Prague and they brought my family out.
Finalement, tout le monde s'est retrouvé à Paris. Que faire? Est-ce que Miloš devait rentrer en Tchécoslovaquie, sachant ce qu'il attendait, ce qui attendait en tout cas le cinéma tchèque? Sa femme a décidé de rentrer avec ses enfants et lui de rester. Ils se sont séparés à ce moment-là pour des années. Et il a décidé de tenter sa chance en Occident. Quelques mois après, nous repartions à New York pour enfin finir le scénario de Taking Off et le tourner.
Mais le retour à New York ne se passe pas comme prévu. La Paramount n'aime pas le scénario de Taking Off et refuse de financer le film. Forman doit repartir à zéro.
When finally Paramount turned down, definitely, for about a year almost, you know, I didn't know really what to do. And then Helen Scott, she was the François Truffaut's, I don't know, assistant or secretary or whatever. She was in New York. I talked to her and she told me, that was her, she told me about this division at Universal which decided to make this experimental kind of films under $1 million, and she arranged me to meet Ned Tannen, and that's how Taking Off was arranged to be made at Universal.
Parmi ces films expérimentaux réalisés pour moins d'1 million de dollars, figurent Macadam à deux voix de Monty Hellman, Minnie et Moscovitz de John Cassavetes, et donc Taking Off. D'un côté des parents conservateurs, de l'autre leurs enfants fugueurs avides de nouvelles expériences. Et puis des jeunes filles en fleurs avec leur guitare. Mais les visages fermés et les chansons mélancoliques ne trompent pas. Taking Off est le film de l'exil, hanté par la fin tragique du printemps de Prague, Milos Forman enregistrant en Amérique ce qui vient de disparaître en Tchécoslovaquie et qu'il ne pourra plus jamais filmer dans son pays.
And someone to be, and even in the darkest of storms, you knew that the sun was still there, and even the horses had wings.
Critic in the papers was rather all right. Some was even very good, but the film was not really promoted very much because the studio, the Universal, didn't like the film. They didn't like the film. They, in funny way, I must say, for more or less political reasons, because they were disturbed by the scene where the parents are learning how to smoke marijuana, to experience the same thing as their children do, to better understand them, right? So this was politically very incorrect, and somehow, you know, it turned the brass at the Universal off, you know. I did taking off the same way, the only way I knew how to make films, the way I made them in Czechoslovakia. So, you know, screenplay has a little loose structure. I mix non-professional with professional actors. I encourage improvisations. I was at several screenings with the audience in the normal theater of taking off, and people enjoyed the film. They laughed during the film. I had a good time, and then suddenly film stopped, and so what is that? That's the end? But who is the good guy? Who is the bad guy? Who won? Who won? You know, and that was sort of. So in that moment, I realized, you know, that I can't, in the United States, make the film the same way with the same, you know, recipe as I did in Czechoslovakia. Also, my language inadequacy forced me to turn to the works which were originally written in English, you know, novels or plays, you know, written by English-speaking writers.
Nous sommes au début des années 70 et il reste un dernier film à réaliser avant que le cinéaste ne se révèle enfin au grand public. Un film dont les origines remontent aux années tchèques de Forman.
The book was written in 1962 by Kenkisi. Immediately, the rights were bought by Kirk Douglas. Yet no one studio wanted to finance the film about mental illness, you know. And he was in Prague on Goodwill Tour in 1965 or 6. And they showed him some of Czech films, among them one of mine, Loves Were Blonde. He liked it. And there in Prague, he suddenly, out of the blue, he asked me, you know, he sent me the book, and if I would read it and tell him if I'm interested to make a movie out of it. Because he realized, you know, that this guy must know how to make a cheap, you know, movie for little money. So, and he liked the film. So I said, of course, of course. Well, the book never came. About 7 years later, I think I'm already living in America, in New York, doing nothing. Suddenly I got in a mail a book, the same book, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, sent to me by the producers, Solzhenitsyn and Michael Douglas as a producer, son of Kirk Douglas. When I met Michael, first of all, I found out that he didn't know that his father sent me that book 7 years ago. Plus, when I met Kirk, he said, "You son of a bitch, I sent you a book and you even didn't have a courtesy to tell me go and shove it." And I looked at him and said, "Well, Kirk, I thought the same thing about you. You know, the film, or you fill my head with the idea to go to America, you send me the book. You never did." Well, what happened was that he really did send me the book, but the censors in Czechoslovakia at the customs confiscated the book as subversive literature or whatever, and didn't tell him and didn't tell me. But suddenly the book comes back after 70 years to me, and so that was, and you know, funny thing was that, you know, all my American friends were telling me, listen, you know, don't go near this book. It's such Americana. How can you, an immigrant, understand that? You will, you know, break your neck. It will not be good for you. You will ruin your career because you can't really do it. And I said, this is ridiculous what you are saying. This book, for you, it's a literature. But for me, it's life. I lived this book. I lived. The Communist Party was my big nurse, telling me what I can read, what I cannot read, what I can think, what I cannot think. I know more about this book than you do, because for you it's only a literature. And I think I was right. I knew what the film is about.
Why do you think they might think that?
Don't make a bit of sense to me.
Do you think there's anything wrong with your mind, really?
Not a thing, Doc. Excuse me, miss. Do you think it might be possible to turn that music down so maybe a couple of the boys could talk?
Your hand is staining my window.
J'ai passé une dizaine de jours sur le tournage avec lui à Salem, Oregon. C'était assez passionnant à voir. Et puis le film est sorti, il avait un pourcentage dans le film, je crois que 8 ou 10 mois ont passé sans que je le voie. Et je suis retourné aux États-Unis. Il habitait un appartement sur Central Park magnifique, où il est toujours, et il était en train de signer un chèque considérable aux impôts américains. On dit, bon, ça va, ça va. C'était comme Cendrillon. C'était vraiment passer du Chelsea Hotel à ça. C'était la baguette magique de Cinderella.
Oh, it changed my career a lot, because suddenly it gives you a clout. Suddenly, you know, people who would not normally would not answer your phone. You knock on the door, which normally would not open for you. Plus, it gives you a financial boost. You know, next film you make, you are asking for more money, and that's very important, because finally, especially in this business, money gives you freedom to choose only what I really want to do and believe I can do it well. That's the way.
Après Volotunei Coucou, Milos Forman poursuivra sa galerie de portraits de personnages atypiques, avec les hippies de R par exemple, avec Mozart bien sûr, mais aussi avec le mania du porno Larry Flint, ou encore avec Andy Kaufman, le comique controversé de Man on the Moon. Des personnages un peu à l'écart du monde, dans un entre-deux, parfaits autoportraits d'un Milos Forman devenu américain, mais qui n'aura finalement jamais complètement oublié ses personnages de l'As de pique ou des Amants d'une blonde, et ses années de jeunesse et de libération par le cinéma, la danse, la guitare et le chant.
Okay, you have to cut something, you know, out of it that it doesn't sound so stupid.